This book proposes that a philosophy of photography is essential to any possibility of revolution. Hi, I'm Peter Dixie, landscape and architectural photographer, and this is part 4 of my introduction to Vilém Flusser's Towards the Philosophy of Photography. So, in the last video, we were left at the idea that what a photographer does is a form of play. All the work is done by the program built into the apparatus that is the camera. So the program defines a finite set of possibilities for images that can be produced, and every image has to be within that set. Now, he makes a distinction between kind of superfluous photographs and photography, the real work of a photographer. So the program tends to allow, and it reprograms the people in the world to produce the same sorts of images again and again and again. So, for example, if you buy a mobile phone now, there will be algorithms in it that recognise you're taking a selfie, and they'll adjust the image to make that look a certain way, a way that will encourage you to feel better about the way you look and share it more. So the program itself is trying to sell phones. It's trying to encourage people to take more pictures themselves and share them, to help the photo industry, to help social media platforms, to help industrial production. So this is the program, and the photographer comes to the camera with this program already in place. They don't determine the program, but they are trying to express intention over the top of the program. And so what they're looking for in the world is novel possibilities within the program, things that haven't been done before. So then they can contribute to photography proper, that is, to do something that hasn't been done before, to realise in the form of a photograph a conceptual state that hasn't been seen before. So this is likened to the game of chess. So chess has a fixed set of rules, a fixed set of pieces, a fixed area of play, and so there are a finite number of possible games. So the chess player's goal, since we can all look at the games that have already been played and recorded, we can memorise whole games and whole lines in games that have already been proven to be strong or weak. And what the chess player is looking for is a novel line that wins the game. The same for the photographer. To contribute to photography, they're looking for a new conceptual possibility that has never been realised before. So the next argument is concerning the idea that all photography is conceptual in nature. The argument that's made for this in the book is, I think, not entirely clear, but this is called Towards the Philosophy in Photography. It's a very thin book. I mean, you can see it's not a thick volume at all. It's more of a sketch of a possibility of an argument than a detailed and rich in examples text. So he kind of argues that if a photographer is attempting to operate in arts or science or politics, he needs concepts from those disciplines to inform the activity already. But I think we can make a stronger argument for the idea that all photography is fundamentally conceptual. There's not a naive, simple photography. There's always a conceptual element. So if we look at a photograph of objects, for example, billiard balls on a table, we can read that those are objects in the image, but in fact in the surface of their image, they are not objects. We see the state of the table, the state of the balls on the table, what he calls the state of things. We interpret that as a set of objects, the table and the balls, in a particular arrangement. But within the image, there's no way to empirically discover that those are objects in the world. If we go to the billiard table, we can push a ball and see that that ball moves separately from all the other elements of that arrangement. There's a fault line in causality that separates that object from the world around it that makes us define that as an object. However, when we have the third order abstraction of that is a photograph, then those fault lines of causality are lost. They disappear. The surface is continuous. And yet we can bring our experience from objects in the world and multiple images of objects that we've previously seen and have the concept that the depiction of the ball in the photograph is a depiction of an object, and that ball is a separate object. So we need concepts and we need experience of images expressing those concepts in order to understand any images. So this is fundamental to our understanding of photographs. They must be conceptual because they don't have the qualities that exist in the world. They're a third order abstraction. A lot of those qualities are lost, and yet we still can read photographs. So this is how we can know this. So then the photographer's job is a conceptual job. They're trying to find new conceptual possibilities in the world, and they treat the world as a pretext for their activity. It's there to provide the resources to give the input to the apparatus, which gives the output, which is real. That is the symbolic surface of the photograph. And this is what the photographer is aiming to create, with the goal of changing the meaning of the world. The camera program also operates in a way to produce photographs, to change the meaning of the world. So this is described as the sort of returning magic to the world that also will affect the behaviour of people, will change the meanings of the world to those people. So what does the photographer want to do? They want to uniquely contribute to photography. They want a completely novel possibility to be realised. At the same time, the program of the camera is trying to alter the behaviour of people to repeat more of the previous photographs that have been made. The camera photography is a form of mass culture. It thrives on participation. So if you want to sell apparatus, you want more people to engage with those and participate. And then there's a cultural element to this where the stronger the desire of the people to participate feeds back into this, and the program will accelerate. So one force you have is that the program pushes more images to be made, and at the same time the photographer has to work harder to find new possibilities, so they have to create more images. So this creates a situation where images will proliferate massively, and also that in order to express the new conceptual intention that the photographer has, a single image won't be enough. The voice of the program will overwhelm it. So the photographer, in order to communicate this conceptual possibility that they're realising through their photographs, needs to repeat it. They need to produce a series of images in order to be able to communicate that, to make that meaning real. And I found this quite interesting to read in this essay, because I've also recently been reading this book, which is Daniel Rubinstein's How Photography Changed Philosophy. And the part of this that I'm reading at the moment deals with what it says is a fundamental aspect of photography, which is seriality. That is, that photographs, there's always a photograph before a photograph and a photograph that comes after. They occur in series. And when I was reading this, I was questioning quite a lot and not entirely convinced by the argument in this book. But certainly reading this section of Towards the Philosophy of Photography has kind of given me a good framework for understanding that. So then you see that photography must be conceptual, and also, the final point of the chapter, there are two forces that control photography: the program of the apparatus and the intentions of the photographer. And both of these drive for more images to be produced, and hence we see a huge proliferation of photographs in the world.